For 75 years, the United States have children migrate from the east to the west. This is the Orphan Train Movement. It happened between 1854 and 1929. Over 250,000 orphans headed west to the new homes that were arguably better than life on the streets. However, not all children found happiness and love within these new homes. The Orphan Train Movement helped create today's children's rights by showing us why it is important that children get the care they need.
Looking around the streets during the 1800s, there was disease and poverty at every grasp. Not only that, but the United States is still recovering from numerous wars and the additions of territory, which continue to bring families to decide to move within the states. Child protection laws were low and allowed kids to work at a young age. As young as the age of 4, these kids work as hard as they can with the long hours and filthy environment. The long hours, low pay, little education, and unsafe work conditions cause kids to barely be able to let them truly be kids. Paperboys, miners, messengers, shoe shiners, chimney sweepers, and factory workers were all jobs these children would take for the better of their future. Ragged young girls who had nowhere to lay their heads, children driven from drunkards' homes, orphans who slept where they could find a box or a stairway, boys cast out by stepmothers or stepfathers, newsboys whose incessant answer to our question, "Where do you live?" rung in our ears. Don't live nowhere. Little bootblacks, young peddlers, canal boys who seem to drift into the city every winter and live a vagabond life. Pickpocketers and petty thieves trying to get honest work. Child beggars and flower sellers growing up to enter courses of crime. The dangerous classes of New York and 20 years' work among them. Chapter 8.
Charles Loring Brace pioneered the social working industry. Brace was disgusted by the way people treated poor children and orphans. He thought that they needed a better environment to grow up in. In 1853, Brace established the Children's Aid Society. He came up with the idea of sending these children out west to live with families who need extra help around their homes and farms. The idea of who would be sent and expanded to homeless kids, kids with only one parent, and those without parents entirely, which became known as the Orphan Train Movement.
The Children's Aid Society brought the idea that children should have foster homes to go to once one or both of their parents or guardians die. It also brought the idea of asylums and community homes to be established not only in the U.S., but in other countries as well. The different ideas brought by the Children's Aid Society can be defined as asylums are a shelter for people who are in need, community homes are a home provided by the local authority for children who don't have any relatives or are to be placed in foster homes, and foster homes are a household in which care is provided to children if they are orphaned or removed from their home. Over 250,000 children who were orphaned or had one single parent were to be brought to a central home, or community home as we call it, where there were nurses to help care for the children. An example of a place that was established where you could leave your baby on the doorstep and they would take care of them was the New York Foundling Hospital, which was run by nuns. Or in other centers, you could pay some money for them to get even better care. These community homes and centers could be more specific about the kids that were there. Some were made specifically for babies and toddlers, while others might be for elementary-aged kids or teens. A range of companies took these kids in so they'd have a place to go and call home, but they soon decided to send the kids onto trains due to the excessive amount of kids coming in. Here are some examples with actual pictures. New York Mother's Home, Staten Island, 1887, by the Catholic Guardian Services in the top left. A wood engraving representing the New York House of Refuge in 1855 that was burned in 1839 and was replaced on the bottom. And Children's Village in New York on Amsterdam Avenue and 176th Street, 1890. That also notably moved 6,323 kids to families through the orphan trains on the right.
In 1854, newspapers across the East and West sent out articles about trains that would solve the overpopulation problem in New York and other states. They described the large trains that would take all of the orphans without homes to a better place with new families. Thousands of trains would be sent out to collect the children. During this time, kids were stuffed onto these trains. They tried to keep siblings to be in the same town, but not all of them were lucky enough to be near each other. Kids lost contact with whatever family they had left, if they had any. The idea was to send these kids to more rural areas so that they could have a roof under their heads, food, water, and in turn, they'd help families with their farms and whatever they wanted help getting done. Towns would be able to mail an application to have a train find their way over so the people who live in the town or nearby could claim a kid. The kids would be taken off the train and be able to change into better clothes so that they could be brought to a room for possible parents to select who they wanted. The whole ordeal left many children confused and concerned.
I do remember the children milling around outside the train, waiting to be assigned our seats. The big problem was that you never knew what the future held for you. You had no idea what the future ever held for you, and that was a great concern and a great worry. Lee Nailing, an Orphan Train writer. I just finished eating, and this matron came by and tapped us along the head. You're going to Texas, you're going to Texas. Well, some of the kids, clapped and laughed. When she came to me, I looked up. I said, I can't go. I'm not an orphan. My mother's still living. She's in a hospital right here in New York. You're going to Texas. No use arguing. Hazel Latimer, an Orphan Train writer. More kids would be sent off across the states with each other. Some could have a few items such as a Bible or a book and some clothes. One set of clothes to be fancier at the setup place and another for casual wear. Age groups, genders, and races were separated as best as they could on the trains. Each train would have a specific age group with mixed gender. The fall of the orphan trains brought the rise in protection laws for kids. In 1895, a passed law in Michigan was one of the first of many laws passed when it came to the Orphan Train Movement. This led to a decline of the number of orphan trains. That law required institutions to place bonds with local judges for each kid who was placed in an area. By 1901, Missouri, Minnesota, Indiana, and Illinois passed laws requiring higher standards for adoptive homes and families. Nebraska also passed a law requiring proof of guardianship for illegal adoptions. Kansas passed a law requiring authorities to investigate all organizations placing children within the state. In late 1904, President Theodore Roosevelt was made aware of the ordeal about the Orphan Train Movement and sought to have a conference about it. White House Conference on Care of Dependent Children. The meetings continued to occur even with the changes of presidents for 50-plus years and brought new regulations and laws for children.
By 1915, laws were passed in some states that allowed them to investigate even more about how the children were being transported on the trains than certain organizations. All of these laws were passed in the knowledge that society was changing, and the same for their understanding of children's welfare. The kids did not have parents to care for them in good quality before being sent out on these trains to their new homes. There weren't many laws to protect these kids from the outside world. These children were stealing to fend for themselves until the idea of these communities came into being. Kids would join these centers or kid communities for the better. They'd spread the kids across the country to help places not be too populated. More and more kids would be spread across the U.S. to the point where the states had become aware of the negative aspects of the program, so they created laws to protect the children from trouble. For kids to have child protection laws in the United States, the Orphan Train Movement would have had to happen, or else it would have happened later in history. In the end, these trains helped create the foundation for children's rights and the required care that children needed. It also aided in the mindset that it is the people's responsibility to make sure that children are in a safe environment. Without these moral obligations, the world may have been very different, with many children roaming the streets without anywhere to turn.